What's up, folks? You know, I was reluctant to do videos, what I'm saying, simply to get into the space of discussing relationships and things like that, because there's a lot of people regurgitating the same talking points. And I am a solutions oriented person. With that said, I'm only speaking now because I think I've cracked the code on why women have no code. And for those that don't know what no code means, let me break it down. When I say women have no code, it's about honor, integrity, and things of that nature, right? Now, I don't want to offend anybody, but we're just talking about behavior because I don't know you personally. So if you get upset at what I'm saying, that's your problem, okay? Your triggers are your responsibility. Simply put, you don't have to go far to figure out what I'm saying. Look at every beef in your own family. I guarantee you, if you did some homework on it, you'd see that most of the beefs come directly from the women in your family. You don't see a bunch of uncles and nephews sitting around beating up on each other, usually smoking, joking, and you don't watch your sports. Women, however, on the other side of that conversation, the behavior of women, rather, they usually violate boundaries. They're very, like that usually comes in the tone of just being bossy and always provide unsolicited input in spaces where they're not invited. They usually go to places where they can find conflict, and generally speaking, they become annoying. The behavior of them. Again, this isn't your behavior, I'm not talking to you. Take men out of all of women's problems, and women still have major issues with each other. I saw a video the other day where one lady was trying to solicit somebody online for STDs so she can go infect somebody. That's crazy. I've never seen men, like do that in mass. Of course, you got some one-off situations like the rumor about Suge Knight giving Easy AIDS with a syringe. But, that's not a general practice. Those are like very isolated moments. Women that behave the way that I'm describing make this a very general practice. It's a safe assumption that, most women aren't trustworthy. And that's not coming from me. That's coming from other women. There's been plenty of women that say, I don't fuck with women for that very reason, because they feel like they can't trust them. It's a lot of unhealthy competition for no reason. Whereas like men live in the realm of logic. We can't accomplish anything without logic, understanding, and trust. So even at the lowest levels, dealing with like maybe street crime or something like that, men still have some sort of code about themselves. Women compete with each other for the worst men. Like there's 80% of kids that's being born out of wedlock right now. And they're having babies with 16% of men, black men specifically. So the numbers say that the majority of women are competing for the worst men to be pregnant by. That if that's never been brought up, that's the most unhealthiest competition that I can think of. The women that spend more time trying to correct their children before they correct their own behavior are codeless. Like, what makes somebody think that they can go correct the version of them that's the least experienced, most insecure, and the most vulnerable before correcting themselves? Doesn't make any sense. And now this is the part where I say I cracked the code, okay? The reason that they correct their own children before they correct themselves, they lack objectivity. They cannot see a situation without them being involved in it. That's why, like, you can talk and say, if I bring this up and you watch this reel, you're going to be like, oh, that's not me. Well, we kind of understood it wasn't you, but we didn't know it wasn't you until you said that. How come you just can't listen and take it in and just be objective and look at your environment and see if you're reflecting your environment? They, in their inability to be objective, they make a lot of short-sighted assumptions and generalization, especially when they can benefit from it. You ever had a woman tell you, hey, you don't talk a lot and you need to communicate more, or things of that nature? Then you start explaining yourself. And I'm speaking, just in general, no matter if you're a man or a woman, this is a gender neutral thing. And before the end of the conversation, she says, well, I feel like this was directed at me. Nobody give a fuck about your feelings right now if we talking about mine. If you found yourself in a situation that I just described, you're probably dealing with somebody that has an inability to be objective. They can make any and everything about them. They exhibit a lot of narcissistic behavior. Now, I'm not saying that they are narcissists, because everybody has a narcissistic quality about them in some ways. But like, we don't want to get into clinical diagnosis here. We're just talking about behavior, nothing else. So like, if you pay attention to the way that they always have an ability to correct everybody else, but never with themselves, and they never do self-improvement, or they champion these things, but the outcomes say otherwise. You know what I'm saying? Like, who we supposed to listen to? Like, not having no code is also a lack of credibility. They don't lead anything. Okay, like there are no women that men aspire to be like, but yet and still, women want us to compete with their version of reality, all while men afford them the opportunity to criticize us. Like, we can't switch places and be as efficient in some areas if women step into men's spaces. Like, the reality is that there's a lot of jobs that men do because they have to do them, and because they pay well and they fit, what their skill set is, because men have to be realistic about their abilities. Men get told early on, you're not fast enough, you can't catch, you can't jump high enough, you're not tall enough, you're too fat, you're too this, you're too that. You get boxed into what you are, based on what you can do. Now, there's always an exception. You're going to always wind up finding a guy that might be, in basketball, he might be super big or whatever, right? But he got great ball handling skills, maybe able to dribble very well. Like, you get a Zion Wilson, it's a prime example of that. But, those are like exceptions. If you find yourself always superimposing your anecdotal experience as a rule, or as just a rebuttal to negate somebody making a generalized statement, you ain't got no code, and you're getting offended, for no reason. Because if you don't exhibit the behavior, then why are you offended? Aren't you what you answer to? Again, this is not about all women. This is about all women that fit the behavior. Because regardless of where you fit at on the spectrum, the women that fit this behavior is who I'm talking about. So, like, you shouldn't really get offended. And if you do get offended, well, you just found out you don't have no code.